For this video, we're going to start where we left off. So in the last video, we were conjugating in the yo form to say I eat, I cook, I clean, and so on and so forth. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to erase the ending, because now we're going to conjugate for the second person. And the reason we need to do that is so that we can ask questions. So it's great if you can say things about yourself. You have to be able to communicate your needs, but a really big part of language, and especially if you want to retain it, is going to be using it. And you can't use it by yourself. You can't just say things to the mirror and expect that to be the same retention and the same meaningful interaction as a true conversation. So I'm left with my word roots again, and now I'm going to add a new ending. This time I'm going to have two choices. For ER or IR verbs, the new ending is going to be ES. I say this first because our first verb, comer, is an ER verb. So our new ending is not going to be the O, it's going to be the ES. Comes. And then for AR verbs, it's still going to have a pattern, but it's going to be an AS. But it does share that S sound. And if you try to pay attention to that, it's very helpful in understanding if somebody's repeating what you said or asking you a question. So this I'm going to put here because desayunar is AR, desayunas. And then I have several AR verbs all the way until we get to leer. Almuerzas, cenas, preparas, limpias, cocinas. Oh, I'm back to an E. So this is going to be lees. And then what's estudiar? I look over here. It's another AR verb. You're going to notice that ARs are the most common verbs, and they're usually regular. Caminas, hablas, miras, compras, trabajas. Escribir is IR, so this is going to get the ES. Escribes, surfeas, corres. Once again, I've conjugated all of these into the second person form, and now we're going to be able to use that to ask questions. So let me clean up this whiteboard a little bit, and we'll start asking questions. Okay, so now we still have our verbs, we still have our time expressions. Everything is still the same. But now we can go ahead and we can start to form questions. So there's two ways that we can do this. We're talking about time, so we definitely want to have our question word, which is going to be cuando. Remember that all of the question words have accents. So it's very important because there will be times when you will see cuando in a sentence, not as a question word. And the other ones as well, when it's a question, they're always going to have an accent. And cuando means when. So if I want to form an open-ended question and I want to say, when do you eat? For example, there's no verb do in Spanish in the way that we have the verb do in English, which is very, very lucky. Just make this a little bit smaller. Okay. So it's much simpler. I'm just going to put my question word, cuando, and then my verb, remember it's doing two jobs. Cuando comes. My verb's doing that job. I don't have to worry about a pronoun. There's no do to form a question. You just put the question word, and your natural intonation when you ask a question is going to go up at the end. We say it naturally in English, so it's not really something you have to think about. It'll just come out in Spanish. If you are going to put a pronoun, technically the pronoun should go at the end. So if I wanted to say cuando comes tú, for some type of emphasis, I'm going to use the pronoun. That would go at the end because we are going to put the verb first and the pronoun second, similar to English. But in the to form, you're not going to hear the pronoun unless you're emphasizing and comparing. And we won't really be doing that in class. So for now, it's going to be pretty simple. You just need your question word and your conjugated verb. So if you asked me, cuando comes, I would respond, and you have to make sure that you come back with the O form. Como a las 8. This is one way that we can ask questions. It's very open-ended. You didn't ask me what, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's open-ended. Another way that you can do it is by not including the question word and starting straight with the verb. So I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to start with my verb, perhaps an object, and then definitely a time. Comes pizza a las 6. And that's a close-ended question. That's definitely going to get me a yes or a no answer. But I want to encourage you to try both. You can try both types of questions because they're going to be used for different purposes. If you just want to know, when do you read? When do you cook? When do you study? Or if you need more information, if you're trying to make plans with someone, oh, well, do you study in the afternoon or in the evening? That's when you would use those specific time frames. So what I'd like for you to do is to take a couple minutes and to come up with some questions that you can actually use, and you'll be able to ask your classmates on the Flipgrid. So looking at this, the things that interest me, and they might not be the things that interest you, and that's okay. I really like to cook, so I might ask about cooking. Probably studying, because I like school. Probably ask if you speak different languages. Maybe if you watch Netflix or YouTube. And then I would probably ask if you eat different things that I like to eat. So doing that, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to form my questions. Remember, you can always add objects. You can add more details if you want. I'm going to start with comes, always with my inverted question mark. Comes tacos. I love questions with comer because, you know, everybody has an opinion about food. And we already know a lot of food in Spanish just because it's in Spanish. Tacos, burritos, pizza, spaghetti, ravioli. A lot of those foods are already there. So it's a quick way to strike up a conversation. Cocinas. Cocinas. Pasta. And these are yes, and they're going to get me a yes or no, and that's okay. But now with estudias, I feel like most people are going to study certain subjects. So I might ask a little more specifically, estudias matemática a las 10 de la mañana? De la mañana means in the morning. And that might get me different answers, because somebody might say, no, I don't study at 10, but I study at 9. Or, no, I don't study math at all. Or, yes, I study math. I study math from 9 to 11. You can get a whole bunch of answers back with this because of that word, mathematica. If I just asked estudias, well, sure, most students would be studying at 10 in the morning during the week. So I like to play around with the different objects to really make the question different, more specific, and more interesting. And I'd like for you to try that also. So see if you can come up with 8. There are plenty of verbs, so about half of them. I'm going to ask you to come up with 8 questions. Try to be as creative as possible so you all have different questions that you can ask your classmates. And this is going to be great practice for your speaking and when you respond to people on the Flipgrid.